Let's talk about why I picked this laptop, what were the specific specs, and how much I paid for it. So let's talk specs. This laptop comes with i9 2.3 GHz CPU, 32 GB of RAM, 1 TB of SSD storage, and Radeon Pro 5500M with 4 GB of VRAM. This exact specs on Apple.com costs $3,199 plus tax today. Now let's talk about why I picked this specific specs. Number one, I program for a living. I'm a professional software engineer and sometimes I work on side projects as well. Number two, I multitask a lot on Google Chrome. And if you've ever used Google Chrome, you know that it is a huge memory hog. I had a 2015 Macbook Pro that had 16 GB of RAM, and I found that it was very limiting, and oftentimes my computer would stop running or freeze because of lack of RAM. I record and edit videos from time to time, like the one that you're watching right now, and that requires a lot more SSD storage than what is usually given. In my 2015 MacBook Pro, I had 512 GB of SSD storage, and I found that I had to transfer files very frequently between my MacBook Pro and an SSD external drive. So that took up a lot of time and it wasn't very productive in my case. So then I upgraded the SSD from 512 GB to 2 TB, and that was great. I had a lot more storage, but I then realized that with that much storage, I'm putting a lot of my videos on a single device, and if anything happens to the device, then all my work would have gone down the drain. So to prevent that single point of failure, I decided 1 TB is the right sweet spot where I can put a lot of videos onto the computer, edit them, and after I'm done, transfer that into my external drive and back them up that way. I don't do any sort of gaming on this laptop, and I don't plan to game on this laptop at all. That's why I didn't opt for the highest tier of dedicated graphics card, which Apple released several days ago. That was the 5600M 8 GB of VRAM. That costs additional $800 to upgrade. So to summarize everything that I just talked about there, my use cases are: one, I don't do any sort of gaming. I'm not a heavy gamer. I don't even game at all. So I don't need a laptop that is very powerful for gaming. Number two, I multitask a lot, so I require a lot of dedicated RAM for my computer. Number three, I need storage because I do video editing, and those types of media files usually take up a lot of storage. And number four, I do side projects, programming, things like that, so I require some decent CPU, not very powerful, but just decent enough so that I can compile and run things on my local machine. So that's why I picked this laptop, and I think the specs matches my use cases very, very well. Okay, let's move into why I picked this exact specs and why I decided to upgrade those specific components. I'm planning to have this laptop for the next 3 to 4 years, and so I decided to upgrade all the things that are most important to me. And in order of upgrades, usually what people recommend, and I think makes reasonable sense as well, is number one, look to upgrade your RAM. Because most modern computers, the RAM is the biggest bottleneck. Without sufficient RAM, your computer is going to feel very sluggish and it can't multitask very efficiently. And that's when you're gonna think and see the computer significantly slow down, even if you have an SSD or a dedicated graphics card. So after the RAM, you wanna make sure that you're upgrading your SSD storage. If you have an older hard disk drive, making that switch to an SSD makes the most sense, and you're going to see a huge improvement as if the computer was a brand new computer when you switch from hard disk drive to solid state drive or SSD. Now the third thing here is it might be a little bit more complicated depending on what your use cases are. Dedicated graphics card. If you have the money and you have that use case, then yes, splurge on your dedicated graphics card. And that's very important because if you're doing rendering, video editing, or any types of complex graphics use cases, then you need a dedicated graphics card. And that's because most laptops today come with integrated graphics card, which works decently enough for day-to-day use cases, but not for any types of heavy-duty video editing or rendering work. So if you're a graphics designer, a video editor, then you want to make sure you spend some money on getting a dedicated graphics card. Finally, the last upgrade that you should think of is the CPU. And the reason I mentioned that CPU is the last thing you want to think about is because most modern laptops have either quad-core, meaning 4 cores, or 6 or 8. Most software today are very well optimized such that you don't really need that many cores to run. If you're thinking between upgrading the RAM or upgrading the CPU, your first consideration should always be to get as much RAM as you need, and then think about upgrading the SSD, and then dedicated graphics card, and then finally think about the CPU. Here's the reason why I think this model, this specific spec, is the best deal for 16-inch MacBook Pro today. Now, on Apple, there are 2 different configurations that you can start with. You can start with the 6-core CPU, or you can start with the 8-core CPU version. Now, I did the same configuration between this model, the 8-core version, and the 6-core version, and the price difference is only $100. I would rather upgrade to the middle tier with the 8-core version and get the 2.3 GHz 8-core CPU. And the reason is because I think having 8 cores CPU will future-proof my laptop for the next 3 to 4 years. And between the 5500M with 4 GB of VRAM and the 8 GB of VRAM, I went online and did some research, and it didn't seem like a huge difference in terms of performance. So rather than spending that additional $100 to upgrade, I decided to put that money into the CPU instead. Finally, let's talk about why I decided to upgrade the laptop today. Number 1, there's always something better on the horizon. Choosing whether to buy something now or not shouldn't rely on what is in the pipeline, and rather what needs you have today and what things are going to satisfy your needs. So I'm very practical in that sense, and I know exactly what the things I need are, so I don't bother waiting that much longer just to see what's coming in the pipeline, because if something new comes up and I feel that that is very useful or whatever, it's gonna cost more as well. So rather than waiting for that next thing, I just decided I'm gonna put the money down today. I know this is what I need, and here's how much I'm willing to pay for it. Number 2, someone actually gave me a really good offer for my 2015 MacBook Pro. So if you're not very aware, currently the market there's a huge demand for people who want to buy 2015 MacBook Pros. And the reason there is because if they don't choose the 2015, then upgrading to the 2019 model is going to cost a big premium. And the reason for that is because if they don't choose the 2015, upgrading to the 2019 16-inch, it's going to cost them a premium. The basic model for this 2019, the base model for the 2019 16-inch is going to cost about $2,400 plus tax. So a lot of people right now I'm seeing, they don't want to get the ones between 2016 to 2018 because of the butterfly keyboards and all the issues associated with that line of laptops. To summarize, there's a strong demand for 2015 MacBook Pros today, and after the upgrade I did to the laptop, I was able to sell it for a very, very good price. And the sale of that older model has allowed me to put some of that money into buying this new one. And the third and final reason, and much more personal reason here, is because I wanted to do this video. I've been eyeing the 16-inch model for a very, very long time. And if you check out my 15-inch 2015 model review, you'll see that I mentioned very explicitly why I didn't want to upgrade to the 16-inch model. So this sort of serves as a slap in the face, sort of. But I really enjoy this laptop. I think the aesthetics of it looks really good. The value for money is fairly good. I know what sort of use cases I'm going to be using it for. And I treat this as an investment towards myself so that I can build and produce more videos much more effectively with higher quality, and this is going to be very helpful in helping me jumpstart my YouTube career. So yes, that's all the things I want to share about why I picked this specific laptop, and please leave a comment below if you want to see a more in-depth day-to-day review of using this laptop. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!